The wind attribute has come a long way in Yu-Gi-Oh! From being one of the weakest in the game to having some memorable competitive archetypes. Gone are the days of trying to make Mist Valley a viable deck. Not when you have archetypes like Harpies, Lyrilusc, Ritual Beast, and Floowandereeze that have graced the metas in the late 2010s. It's clear that they have seen their fair share of the spotlight on the big stages. However, one Wind Wing Beast archetype didn't make the cut, and you can say it wasn't really their fault. Well, most of it wasn't their fault, as they did no favors to themselves in one critical aspect. Today, we'll explore those faults and see what made the Simorgh archetype fail, and what made them take an Icarus Attack into being a flop in the TCG. Before getting into the base archetype, it's only fair to pay homage to the bird that made it all possible. Simorgh, Bird of Divinity, was a level 7 winged beast that debuted as the boss for the starter deck Lord of the Storms in 2006. This 2700 attack monster couldn't be special summoned, and needed all of its tributes to be wind if tribute summoned. It also dealt 1000 damage to both players during the end phase as well as on the field, but decreased the damage by 500 for each spell or trap card the player controlled. While it may be the OG Simorgh, that doesn't warrant it to get any play. It was restrictive on how it could be summoned, and had an effect that could easily be played around by simply setting spell or trap cards face down. It was too slow on its debut, which never changed as more metas and cards emerged. At best, you can honor this card for being the reason we have Simorgh as an archetype. Still, its lackluster effect and restrictive summoning conditions didn't seem fit for casual or competitive play. It would be a different story for the next Simorgh in this video though. Simorgh, Bird of Ancestry, was later introduced in the TCG set Light of Destruction in 2008. This level 8 light wing beast monster lets both players tribute wind monsters for one less cost. If it was tribute summoned by only using wind monsters, you can return 2 cards your opponent controls to their owner's hand. It was also treated as a normal monster while in your hand, because why not? This card did see some play in Simorgh decks after seeing card bins for over 10 plus years. The effect of bouncing back cards is always welcomed, especially as the game advanced with the high use of extra deck monsters. Having the ability to put back synchros, Xyz, fusions, or links to the extra deck was really nothing to scoff at, as it resets your opponent's field and forces them to waste resources to bring those monsters out again. Ancestry also helped reduce the tribute summons needed for wind monsters, reducing the resources required to play a high-level wind monster. This came in handy when summoning the other high-level winds, whether it be your in-archetype monsters, or tech choices like Rise of the Mega Monarch, who was used as a tech in Simorgh builds with its strong effect that bounced a card in the field and in either player's graveyard to the top of their decks, and could also bounce an additional card back to the hand if used to win monsters as tribute. A pretty solid old school Simorgh, but not as great as the next Simorgh who debuted in Stardust Overdrive. Dark Simorgh was a level 7 Dark Wing Beast. It was also treated as a wind monster was face up on the field. It had 2 ways to special summon itself. One way was by banishing a dark and wind monster from your graveyard to special summon it from your hand, and the other was to banish a dark and wind monster from your hand to special summon it from the graveyard. If it's face up on the field, it prevents your opponent from setting cards. What made Dark Simorgh a hit in the TCG community was its success in Simorgh Lockdown, where you could play this card alongside another TCG favorite, Anti-Spell Fragrance. By setting Fragrance and then playing Dark Simorgh, you can activate Fragrance on your opponent's turn to make them set their spell cards before activating them. However, since Dark Simorgh prevents your opponent from setting cards, they wouldn't be able to play any spell or trap cards. It also saw play as well with his lock-in ninjas, as it was easy to bring out with a trap card, Ninjutsu Art of Transformation, which lets you tribute a ninja on field to special summon a winged beast, beast, or insect monster from your hand or deck, whose level is equal to or less than the monster used plus 3. By simply using a level 4 ninja like Hanzo, you could easily bring out Simorgh and establish a Simorgh lock on turn 1 with the greatest of ease. It's not a bad start for the Bird of Birds. 2 out of the 3 Simorghs were pretty decent enough to see play. Players didn't expect Simorgh to be a fully fledged archetype when they were announced in the TCG set Rising Rampage in 2019, 10 years after the last time we saw a Simorgh. The archetype still held to its roots, containing wind and dark monsters that focus on removing your opponent's spell and traps for extra perks. Also focused on normal summoning and tribute summoning aspects to make bringing out your high level Simorghs easier, like giving extra normal summons or reducing the cost to tribute summon bigger monsters. 10 cards were given to our new avian friends to help them soar the TCG. Let's start off with the little Simorghs. They all had one effect in common, which is, if your opponent didn't control any spell or trap cards, you could special summon them from the grave, but banish them when they left the field. You're also locked into special summoning wing beast monsters for the rest of the turn. Simorgh, Bird of Beginning, was a level 1 wind monster with 0 attack and 1600 defense. When normal summoned, you can activate its effect to normal summon 1 Simorgh in addition to your regular normal summon and set. Simorgh, Bird of Beginning is a level 2 with 1000 attack and defense, that lets you add a Simorgh card from your deck to hand when it's normal summoned. Simorgh, Bird of Calamity, was level 3 with 1500 attack. If normal summoned, you can send a Simorgh card from your deck to the graveyard. For the last of the low levels, we have Simorgh, Bird of Perfection, which is a level 4 with 1400 attack that targets one spell or trap card your opponent controls and returns it to their hand. So now that the small birds are out of the way, it's time to show the new Simorgh retraits. Simorgh, Lord of the Storm, was a level 8 winged beast with 2900 attack and 2000 defense, which couldn't be targeted by your opponent's spell and trap card effects. When your opponent activates a spell or trap card, its quick effect lets you attribute one wind winged beast monster to target one of your opponent's cards and spin it back to the deck. The other enables you to return this card from your graveyard to your hand when a winged beast monster you control is destroyed by battle while this card's in your graveyard. Finally, Simorgh of Darkness is the Dark Simorgh upgrade with 2900 attack and 2000 defense. It also has the wind attribute when face up on the field. If you tribute a wind or dark monster, you can special summon this card from your hand or graveyard. When a spell or trap card or effect is activated, you can tribute one wind winged beast monster to negate the activation and destroy the card. The rich kept getting richer when they gave this archetype a field spell, Elbor's The Sacred Land of Simorgh. This field spell gave all winged beast monsters in the field 300 attack and defense. Once per turn, you can reveal a winged beast monster from your hand to normal summon a winged beast monster for one less cost. You also gain an additional normal summon if you control another wind winged beast monster. They also got a searcher in Simorgh Onslaught, which made you discard one winged beast monster to add 2 Simorgh monsters with different attributes from your deck to your hand. You can also banish the card from the graveyard to reveal one winged beast monster from your hand to reduce all monsters with that same name's level by 1 for the rest of the turn, even after they've been summoned. The final spell was removal based. Simorgh Repulsion, which made you discard a winged beast monster to return all cards in your opponent's spell and trap card zone to their hand. It also had the same graveyard effect as Onslaught, where you can banish this card to reveal a winged beast to reduce the level of all monsters in your hand with the same name by 1. To round the support, their only trap card was Simorgh Sky Battle. This continuous trap prevented your winged beast monsters from being targeted by card effects or battle, except for the winged beast with the highest attack. You can also send this card to the graveyard and 2 Simorgh monsters in the field with different attributes whose levels equal 7 or higher to return all cards on the field to the hand. Then take 500 damage for every card returned to the hand. Then your opponent takes damage equal to the damage you took. The archetype came out of the gate with great support. You had 3 starters in the small birds, a bird that was prime removal, alongside a field spell that established board presence, and a search spell that adds 2 Simorghs to your hand regardless what level they are. Couple this with the fact that the small birds can bring themselves back to give you monsters to set up your tribute to your big birds, who can respond to your opponent's spells and traps to punish them and have built-in recyclability. The deck was unique in many ways. Being more based around normal summoning allowed you to play around usual floodgates that stopped some common decks. Since most combo decks were heavily based around special summoning, it didn't affect their gameplay as much, and the deck didn't care that much about special summonings except in some instances, such as the smaller birds. The downside was probably they didn't have many good extra deck options. If forced to use the small bird's graveyard effects, it locked you into special summoning winged beast monsters, which there wasn't much in 2019, since the archetype also didn't have an archetype tuner for synchros or enough matching levels for Xyz plays. That left them only being able to use links. And there weren't any great scenarios where bringing out Harpy Conductor or Hellsfrigger the Doom Eagle in the deck spelled victory. And as solid as their boss monsters were, they were heavily catered to the spell and trap cards. That didn't bode well against monster effects as they had little protection against them. So if the deck wanted any chance of getting better, they needed a go-to monster that helped them against monster effects, be a great target when they're locked into summoning only winged beasts, and all help the Simorghs as first or second turn cards. Surprisingly, they got this card in Duelist Overload in 2020, in one of, if not the best, winged beast link monster ever printed. Introducing Simorgh, Bird of Sovereignty, a level 3 winged beast monster with 2400 attack. It requires 2+ monsters, including a winged beast monster. It couldn't be used as a link material, and it and the winged beast monsters it points to can't be targeted by card effects. When it would be destroyed by battle, you can destroy another Simorgh card instead. Once per turn during the end phase, you'd be allowed to special summon a winged beast monster from your hand or deck with a level less than or equal to the unused spell and trap card zones on the field. Now, you couldn't ask for a better boss monster for an archetype with potential. Easy requirements to meet, preventing your birds from being targeted, challenging to get off the field, and had the ability to generate any winged beast monsters from your hand or deck. Since the effect also depended on how many unused spell and trap card zones there were, this card was terrific on the first turn, as the maximum level winged beast you can bring out is 10, since your opponent has no established board when you go first. This card was a solid link monster. That's the good news. The bad news is that this card had the words abusable written all over it. The archetypes like Harpy Ladies and Lyrilusc could bring it out normally, but there were archetypes that could bypass the requirements to properly summon the Sovereign Avian. Enter Tri-Brigade, an archetype that could banish Wing Beast, Beast, or Beast Warrior monsters from the graveyard to special summon a Wing Beast, Beast, or Beast Warrior Link monster from the extra deck with a Link rating equal to the number banished. Nothing says free, abusable monsters than having an archetype that can bypass its requirements. To make it even more irritating, the archetype was splashable in decks like Lyrilusc, making it easy to create giant boards with a ton of materials in the grave, with the ability to access Wing Beast monsters from your deck or hand. Whether it be the nice Omni-Negate like Mist Valley Apex Avian, or a card that locked your opponent into wind monsters like Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds. Trust us when we say neither of them made the game fun. This ultimately ended up costing Simorgh the archetype boss monster, as it was introduced to the Banhammer in February 2022. A monster that is easily brought out with proper or improper summoning methods and can fetch potential Omni-Negates or Floodgates from your hand or deck didn't have a good look on the meta. It didn't have a good look for Simorgh either, as many consider the deck unplayable without its prominent playmaker. The card, meant to help them maintain their board presence, spam out their necessary monsters, and prevent them from harmful effects, was shot out of the sky. What made it worse was the last piece of support, which was also good, but seemingly useless now due to the deck being unplayable. Simorgh Bird of Perfection was introduced in Battle of Chaos in 2022. While on the field, it's also a wind attribute. If that doesn't make this card good, this might make it a bit better, because once per turn, when you normal summon or special summon a Wing Beast monster, you can reveal this card from your hand to normal summon a Simorgh monster from your hand. And that's not all. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can send a Simorgh monster from your deck to the graveyard. Then add a Simorgh spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. No players complain about getting a card that does everything. It gives you a free extra normal summon, plucks a bird in the grave, and adds a spell or trap card to your hand. And most importantly, all this goes off if normal summoned. This is the only small bird that doesn't miss the timing, as the other bird effects go off when normal summoned. And in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh!, if the effect of a monster with when in its text doesn't go off immediately and isn't the last thing to occur, you miss the timing of that card. So if you summon a bird off of this effect and it's not the last effect to go off, you get a bird with no effect. So most of the time, you'd summon this card with its own effect to bury a bird and then grab whatever spell you needed to combo off to get a bird for Simorgh of Sovereignty. Well, that would have been the combo if you still had it, since Sovereignty got its feathers plucked. So there were not that many great plays left for Simorgh except playing Lockdown or Tribute spamming. While I'm sure a lot of the bird up gang would like to say it was optimal, it wasn't as impactful as having access to a Logger Omni-Negate while being under the safe protection of the coolest Wing Beast Link 3. Not many archetypes can boast about having their very own circular, and then still not have enough gas to even make use of it. So let's get down to why this archetype failed. We can easily start with the fact that while the deck had many solid mechanics, it had no powerful end board options or plays once Sovereign went down. Losing the Bird of Birds did it no favor, as banning the card was necessary so it wouldn't get abused in a degenerate lockdown that slowed the game down horrendously, or always give you a free 2700 Hawk waiting to interrupt your plays. They did no favors by locking themselves into special summoning Wing Beast monsters only, as the pool of Wing Beast extra deck Link monsters is still slim, and by slim, we mean there are just 4 to choose from. Finally, the last nail in the coffin was the existence of missing timing. It's one thing to get screwed over by your opponent's plays and then have your combos disrupted. It's another thing to say you normal summoned one Simorgh, chain perfection, summon another bird, resolve your effect, and get entirely nothing for it because reading is fundamental. Simorgh has to suffer because of an if and when clause that was bound to peck the birds in the wings when they play them. Overall, the deck had potential, but due to clauses, the ban of its most powerful monster, and gameplay not being assertive enough with said monster, Simorgh couldn't reach its peak perfection. Even if you went with the anti-spell fragrance lockdown strategy, it wouldn't be powerful enough in today's expensive children's card game due to the amount of board breakers that we have today, and the fact that anti-spell fragrance is an unsearchable limited card. If this isn't reason enough, just blame Tri-Brigade. It definitely was their fault. Whatever way you put it, the bird isn't the word anymore, as Simorgh is now sitting in the Hall of Fail cards.